Welcome to tonight's edition of Women's Conversations in Healthcare, Academia, and Teaching, or CHAT. Today's session is all about diversity, inclusion, equity, with a specific focus on intersectionality. My name is Sarah Lal. If you're not from McMaster University, maybe we haven't met before. However, I'm very happy and excited to be part of this virtual conversation with you tonight. I work at the medical school. My focus is on innovation and entrepreneurship. However, tonight the focus is really on Dr. Ming-Ka, who is going to be leading our session because she is very, very experienced in this space. So Ming-Ka is actually from the University of Manitoba, where she holds a number of different roles. This is one of the exciting parts of being in this virtual world these days. We get to engage with a lot more colleagues from other universities than probably in the past. However, at the University of Manitoba, she holds a number of positions, including being the Associate Professor of Pediatrics and a clinician educator. She is co-director of the Office of Leadership Education. She's the Rady Faculty of Health Sciences. She's the chair of the Sano Kondu Leadership and Governance team. And she holds a number of different responsibilities as they pertain to intersectionality, a number of different leadership roles. And so if there's anyone that you really want to highlight, Ming-Ka, please feel free to do so in your intro. However, we're very, very excited to have you here. You're perfect for facilitating this discussion on intersectionality, and I'm so pleased and excited to be learning from you tonight. The way that the session is going to run is that from about 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we're going to be having different kinds of conversations. The chat format is quite set, and so for those who have been here with us before, the feel will be familiar to you. We start off with intros, so that's what we're doing right now. Then we'll have some opening remarks from the feature speaker for the night. And then we'll break off into small group discussions, which is essentially going to be a group of about 4 people. So here we'll probably split into 2 different groups, but 4 people in a group. We'll have some probing questions that we'll like to discuss. And after having those intimate discussions, we'll come back into the larger group. We'll debrief, share the key learnings from everything that we talked about, and then conclude for the evening. The intent here is to create really intimate discussions, but also to create new connections with people that we may never have met before, or engage in new types of discussions with individuals that are more familiar to us. And so it is an exciting evening, and a lot of individuals that attend our chat events actually are here repeatedly, session after session. What really conceptualized chat. So Dr. Ming-Ka Chan, who is on here as well, she will pop in a second. We conceived of this chat as a way for us to, as individuals who identify as women, come together a little bit more frequently to discuss matters that matter to us and invite our male colleagues, but also individuals who are allies in different ways to come and be part of the conversation as well. The inspiration was because there is continuing to be an a persistent gender gap in academia, in all industries, but in academia in particular. Many leadership roles are still male dominated, and we do need that intersectionality lens. And so as much as we can create these conversations, these safe spaces where we can have free-flowing dialogue about topics that matter to us, this is what chat intends to do. And so as long as we keep doing that, we'll keep running these chats in order to help each other learn, address challenges, and really build capacity to overcome barriers that still exist. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ming-Ka, and I'm really looking forward to this session.
So thank you very much for the warm welcome, Sarah. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to engage with all of you in this dialogue, and I look forward to learning from the group. So we're here to talk about intersectionality and bring together a diversity of perspectives. We'll bring together some theory, our lived experiences, all in the context of the culture of healthcare and academia, and hopefully address or take the opportunity to address change at a personal or systemic level. So I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that I live, work, and play on Treaty 1 territory. So that includes the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples. and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. And my province includes lands that were and are original to the home of the Inuit people. And it is important for us to think about the treaties that were made on these territories. And I both acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the current day as well as the past, and hope that this session is one of many that can help us move forward in partnership with our Indigenous communities in hopes of reconciliation and collaboration. And I invite you to take a moment to reflect on the lands that you live on and how we might work together towards reconciliation. So before I start, I do want to remind us that we're here together to create some safe spaces. I invite you to be open and to explore. I anticipate it'll be a safe space, but it will be uncomfortable at times. And we'll apply the Chatham House rules in that we'll keep the ideas, but leave the stories behind. So to start off, I'd like you to take about a minute or so, and you can either draw or write down some identifiers that will help us get to know you, tell us who you are, and share some aspects of your identity. You can be as detailed as possible, and you can just write that on a piece of paper or on your phone. So if you could complete the poll and share about when you wrote or drew your story, what did you share? Looks like a mix from, looks like people shared about their roles, their likes and dislikes, their gender identity, and a little bit about race and ethnicity. Thank you. So normally and traditionally what I might share would be perhaps in bubble one. So I usually share that I'm a pediatrician, I'm a clinician educator, and I have a leadership role in the Office of Leadership Education, which spans the 5 colleges in the health sciences, and I have no conflicts of interest to declare. Now more and more as we move towards being more relationship centered in our places of work and learning, we start to share more from bubble 2. So my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm cis, I'm a Chinese settler in Treaty 1 territory. I'm married to another physician, and I'm a mother of 2 teenagers. And so it's all about starting to understand all of who I am to help create that sense of inclusion and that sense of belonging. So just to ground us, let's talk a little bit about definitions. So intersectionality theory was something from developed from Kimberly Crenshaw, a lawyer in the United States. And she talks about the ways in which systems of power and resilience, which are based on gender, race, class, or other axes, overlap with one another. And rather than having, and they actually overlap to exert their effects rather than independent effects on either individuals or groups. So rather than the or, it's about the and it's about looking at all of who we are. And it's important to remember that these identifiers that we've used are actually socially constructed. So when I think about, and they convey unique experiences, they can provide opportunities, and but also some barriers. So when those ideas come into mind and into play, I think about power and privilege. So power and privilege work in an intersectional manner, but it's not a mathematical equation. It's not like if you have power in one category, but not in another, that you have a +1 and -1 and that equals 0. They actually intersect in complex and multidimensional ways. And there's a couple of resources, and I believe Sarah will share those in the chat. I personally like the Power Pack myself, and we use it here in our undergraduate teaching. I like the pack because I can choose what I pull out and what stays in my pack. So going back to my story, to our stories, each of these identities can confer more or less power and privilege. And when there are intersections where there is less power and privilege, it could lead to feelings of not belonging or even oppression. So let's spend some time doing a deeper dive. So in your small groups, and we'll post the questions in the chat as well as the resources, talk about what aspects of your identity that you tend to share. And on the other hand, what aspects you might not tend to share. Once you've done that amongst the group, then I'd like you to either look at the Power Pack or the Power Flower and share something about your experience, thoughts, and feelings within these categories.
All right, we're back.
So I was hoping that we could debrief and share some reflections. You're welcome to come off your, turn on your microphone, or if you want to share in the chat. But I'd like to hear a little bit about what it was like to share your personal experiences with power and privilege. What were the deciding factors about what you chose to share or not? And I'm curious if there's any surprises or challenges. Your intersections of power and privilege. You may want to discuss these questions with your mentor, a coach, your team, your supervisor, teacher, your group that you might belong to, your committee, as you brought up, Anne. You know, think about, you know, what would you consider as you work to ensure a diversity of perspectives in your learning or work environments? What might be some next steps as you try to embed this into the culture? And how do we ensure that this is sustainable over time? I think these are important questions to think about. And I invite you to do some of that work after the chat today. And after that chat, it would be important to think about, well, what have you learned, to spend some time reflecting? And then what are you going to commit to changing? You know, what's going to be your action? And who's going to be your accountability partner? So that's somebody who's going to help keep you accountable in terms of time and perhaps be an ally in the action. Somebody that you can depend on to help you keep to task. So in conclusion, whoops, I hope we have had some time to dialogue, to understand our intersections, and better understand of all of who I am, all of who you are, and all of who we are. And I've put my contact information. I'd love to keep in contact. Much gratitude to all of you for your willingness to share. Thank you to Sarah for keeping us organized, and Teresa for the invitation to this chat series. And I hope that we've been able to form some new connections. We've illuminated some intersections, and I look forward to the ongoing dialogue and action.